Technology I love until it stops working.
So we don't love it that often then.
Always a pleasure to talk to you, Devi. Congratulations. I'm super pumped for this live album. I really loved Empath. I know it's been an insane year. And before we talk about art and music and stuff, I just want to, find out how you're doing, your family. I hope you're all well and safe. And I know the fires are affecting where you live now, and just what a mess.
You know what? It's interesting. Recently, I made a decision to stop reading the news feeds on social media, and that has helped my anxiety tremendously. And although my life is complicated in the similar ways to everybody else's, I'm sure. I mean, obviously, there's varying degrees of that with kids or not kids or what have you. I strangely feel like I'm kind of resigned to this whole reality, and I'm doing okay. You know, kids started school again this week, and that's really difficult for a lot of reasons. But again, like, you have to weigh out the psychological aspects of, what are the ramifications of teens not having a social life, whatever, for 7 months versus the risks that you kind of, but I mean, perhaps there's also something to be said about that lack of control that I personally have over my life right now. And for someone who's typically very controlling, maybe it's a good lesson.
Something I can relate to personally very well. Yeah. The more you want to control something, it's the less you can actually control it.
I
So
think you're right, man.
I did note, I was going to talk about this later, but I'll just mention it briefly here at the top. I had just listened to your episode 9 podcast about the new black, and you started with a long riff on this exact topic that very personally hit me, because I'm in marketing and social media, but also I'm seeing how negative and damaging it is. And I applaud you for just kind of putting it out there on Front Street for people to pay attention to in their own lives. And hopefully, if it's helped you, maybe it can help some others, because this thing can be great, but it's also possibly detrimental.
Well, it's interesting too how as human beings this whole period has underlined how much of a social animal we are, and the need for that interaction in absence of being able to do it physically. Of course, it's all going to migrate to these online interactions, but just the nature of how these applications have been designed are such that it's very difficult to avoid that tendency to get drawn into it, right?
Mm.
I think that there's something to be said as well for the fact that we're not face to face with it. We've all got this, or at least a lot of us have got this repressed hostility because there's nowhere to put all this anxiety that we've got right now. So it comes out in all these crazy ways. It's insane to me to see what topics can prove to be so divisive to the point where people are screaming at each other. Anything, man, anything. It's like, if there's two sides to a story, you can rest assured there's a news feed about how much the people who believe in the one side hate the other. Anything,
Right on.
Pokemon.
Right. Oh, I know. Remember when we used to be mad about what color the dress was, or if pineapple goes on a pizza? And
Oh,
that was our worst problem.
and but now people are willing to fight each other to the death for their particular stance on either of those things, man.
Right. Just wacky. And we would all do better to. I think social media is not for in particular, social media, as a person that uses it and works on it every day as a profession beside music journalism, I think it's just not for everybody. I think some of our personality types, it just doesn't mesh.
I agree with
And
that.
so you kind of stick a square peg in a round hole personally with
Yeah.
the platforms.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that, man. But I mean, we do what we can, and I think it's also important to realize that some of these things are maybe happening without us realizing too. And it's easy to snowball into these behavior patterns that are subtle at first, so you don't think it's becoming a problem, and then a year later, you're like, why is everything so messed up? And it's like, well, I just did this slow motion apocalypse into being that guy on Twitter or whatever.
Hmm. I hear you. I hear you. Whatever's good for you, man. Please do that and take care of yourself above all things.
I'm doing
You
okay.
need,
Long story long, I'm doing okay.
good. We like to hear that. And so, more than doing okay is music has been, phenomenal outpouring. Despite this dumpster fire circumstances, you have, turned this frown of the world upside down with all this wonderful music, especially order of magnitude, this live project.
Well, I appreciate the acknowledgement of that, man. That's really kind. Um, I I think this gives me a bunch of unique opportunities, and one of which is to sort of prove that it's not just words when I say I really appreciate being able to do this. I really appreciate being able to do this, and the ways that I'm able to do this is because there's people that allow it to happen. It's not the same as it once was, where you can get away with certain behaviors that are independent of what your success or lack thereof will be. And I wanted to say, look, I got the ability to record myself. I got the ability to do video. I can sing. I can produce. I can mix. I can master. All these things that when we started, I never wanted to do. I was always hoping that eventually I'd find myself in a situation where I'd find somebody better that could just do all that legwork. But in absence of that, and maybe in a sense because of the genre that I chose, I've had to learn how to do it all. And so now I'm in this situation where I'm like, hey, I know how to do all these things. And if I can do it and through that be able to show the audience that, like, hey, I really appreciate being able to do this. So here's whatever you want, like here's Twitch or podcasts or songs or videos or concerts or anything I can do, man. It's like legitimately a nice experience to be able to say thanks with this as well.
Mm, no doubt. So many things to unpack, but I definitely want to just touch on the concert video for, the concert for a second, because I've been rewatching this thing, and it's not only it's phenomenal. You've done a lot of big in scope things, but it doesn't feel as big as it kind of looks on one hand. It also feels like I don't know how intimate you can be in a venue that's gigantic that you've played in many times, but it felt like I was there in the video, watching the video. I just felt like very, it was less like a big concert directed at me and more like an experience for the first,
That's
which
a
is unique.
really interesting observation. And I just announced another one today. I'm doing one on Halloween that I've got an idea that will be like all of them. It'll either be really cool or just like a head scratcher or somewhere in between. It'll probably somewhere in between as per usual. But and then for Christmas, I was actually even thinking of like doing a telethon, you know, like you remember the old Timmy's Christmas telethon or whatever they used to do, where they'd have like a 12-hour like marathon of like performances and all this sort of stuff. And you could do it for like, Children's Hospital or just make something that's like a whole day of chaotic content, which would be funny as well. And just thinking out loud, it'd be funny to have a platform to just do bizarre things, as opposed to like, because with the concerts they're pretty linear. It's like, okay, we've got a set of songs and they go like this, and I can experiment with the cameras or whatever, but it's a concert, right? But if I was to do something like a variety show, you could go to Mars with that, man.
I am here for you to do a variety show. But one of the just to share for a second, since we're sharing a lot, one of the best memories of my entire childhood was Jerry Lewis's telethon over Labor Day.
Totally.
I think one of the late '70s. I was like a real little kid. Kiss Army, Kiss Dolls, Kiss Lunchbox, Kiss everything, and Kiss came out during the telethon. I forgot what time my parents let me stay up to, some ungodly hour from a very small child, and
Yeah.
I made them let me stay up to see Kiss. And they kind of came out, they lip synced the song in retrospect. They gave a big check to Jerry, but it was like the best thing for,
You-
for that year.
That's really cool, man. And because it's funny how, like you say, those things stick with you. Like
Yeah.
here we are, careening into middle age, and it's like you're like, I remember Kiss was on the Jerry Lewis telethon, right? Well, I mean, it would be interesting as well to consider seeing, because if you could do it for something that wasn't just entirely like a selfish cause, you could probably get a bunch of musicians and artists and people to do remote shots and little videos. And you could probably also take found things. Maybe you could make part of the variety show like, okay, well, we intersperse it with a bunch of videos that we found on YouTube of some, like, here's the cat video half hour or something, right? That'd be actually really interesting. I'd have to start thinking about it now. So I think I just have. I think I just did start.
The first one is always free for me, my friend. And any help I can give, let me know. I'll contribute. And you have done a really wonderful job, I have to say. I'm sure other people have said it, but let me say it too. You have done a wonderful job raising money for charity. It is so needed. The frontline healthcare workers and other charities you've given to over the years, but especially this year, it's been nothing short of amazing.
Thank you, brother. I mean, we're all in it together, right? And I think this whole thing underlines that now more than any other time in my memory, is that regardless of where we are socioeconomically or politically or anything, we all have to deal with this. Even if you don't believe it, or if you do believe it, or you don't wear a mask, or you wear a mask, you're affected by it. And that fact that we're all affected by it is something that we share.
Without a doubt, we are, whether we like it or not, or whether we acknowledge it or not, we are actually all in a
Yeah.
stuck together in a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah,
But
sure, brother.
heavy stuff. But yeah, good times. And in the fact that you've done some really great stuff is just a tribute to you. But I like this package. I like that the CD track listing is, seems like a little more curated and different. I don't know if that was its own, choice. And then the concert is just expansive, like your whole career, every like little bits of everything, and obviously drawing a lot from, of course, Empath.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this one, because to pull this off took a lot of capital. It was really expensive, and I remember before going into it, management and everybody saying, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" Like, because we had to get the semi trailer and 2 buses and 10 people on stage and the crew and palm trees and, like, all the things about this show that made it what I was hoping it would be, was something that I had to really cross my fingers and say, look, you're doing this for yourself. This is not a strategic career move. And so with that in mind, you're essentially purchasing yourself an experience. And if you're going to do that, play the songs that you want to play. Like, it's not, this one was for me. And so uh, the set list and everything involved with it were things that I thought would really suit this group of players and suit this aesthetic. And that was my mindset going into it. It was much less about any strategy or making any market research about what the audience likes. It was just like, I want to do that one.
Right on. I like that. And I'm glad you mentioned the financial burden, because just a year and a half ago, I remember vividly you were very openly saying, like, I don't know if I can, if this doesn't work, I'm ruined. And very real. No, there's no Scrooge McDucks in progressive rock or progressive metal or avant-garde music or
Yeah.
big goofy rock concerts. There's no, Scrooge McDucks diving in a vault of doubloons. Like, this is in a working man's industry, working person's industry, pardon me. And, I appreciate that, it's risky for you. I know you've done some crowdfunding stuff lately. I know the fans, will buy those tickets to see a live performance. Like, if you do a Halloween thing and it even remotely involves like what I think you're capable of, like, it'll be insane and people will
I'm
pay
going to do
for it.
that one
But
for free. Like, the idea,
nice.
the idea that for that, where it's like, pay what you want or can or
Sure.
whatever. I think it's like the last one, I was afraid that I was going to be stuck with it, but the audience got like, they came through and it didn't. It was good. So now I want to not ask for anything on this next one, and just be more like, listen, if you got something, that's great, but if not, I recognize all the help that I've been given over this year. It's like, I mean, yeah, man, I think that it's a two-way street in every way, and that if people are paying, you've got to be willing to you know go to the nth degree to try and make it worth it for people. And I just really enjoy it, man. I feel really thankful for this, and it's a strange feeling to participate in that emotion amidst such a chaotic year, because it doesn't seem to line up. On one hand, I should think everything's all doom and gloom, it's like all chaos and it's fundamentally absurd. And it is, but there's also another part of me. It's like, yeah, but I get to do this and people are supporting it. And so, I feel like I just need to do what I can to make sure that the involvement from the audience is warranted. Right.
Well said. Well said. I know, with touring kind of on hold till who knows when. I actually, we were supposed to cover the last night of the tour. You ended up canceling due to illness in Detroit,
Yeah.
and since we're all over the world and mostly in America, but elsewhere, and it's a shame. I'm sure you lost the untold counted gigs, but hopefully in the meantime, all this other stuff has kept you
It's been
busy
great.
and productive.
It's been great. And it's being forced to pivot the career and learn all these things on one level. I mean, they say that you can stave off early onset Alzheimer's by continuing to learn. So just having to figure out Streamlabs, and I'm sure it's like every day in your profession, it's the same. It's like we got an interview and they're like, oh yeah, if you could use, Muck Gobbler, you have to download the thing. And you're just like, dude, another one? You kidding me? It's like, oh, I've got MS. Oh, there's this one on Google now. And it's like, I'm like, but it's the same as Skype. It's the same as Zoom. It's the same. So every day when I've had an interview schedule, I've had to learn a whole bunch of new technology. And luckily now that I'm starting to get my head around it, they're all the same, really. But in the beginning of this thing, man, I was just like, OBS was a nightmare at first, trying to figure out how to do that and then stream from Pro Tools and then get the audio, but also have the microphone and not have the latency. And you know what I mean? I'm sure you've been through that and you're just like, oh my God, man.
Yeah,
So,
we're still trying to work it out. My producer is up my case to try to get my professional audio box to work with my laptop, so my calls are a little smoother and professional. We're trying. We're really trying. We've stepped up our game.
yeah, me
Also,
too. Me too. But I think that's the thing that I find so fascinating about, although yes, the touring came to an end and there's, that's unfortunate in a lot of ways. Being forced to learn some new things has resulted in some really cool inspiration too. Like I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that having that skill set would allow me to really take what I was doing over there and bring it to another level. And I'm really enjoying it. Might be a stretch, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity to learn. Right. I've gotten angry at my computer a lot more recently.
again, I can relatable, the ever relatable Devin Townsend.
Yes.
Obviously, to me, I still feel like Empath is still very fresh and new, and Empath Deluxe just came out, and you put out some ambient music also. But of course, I have to ask, are you working on toward another new thing? Is that what's in the works next, or
Yes, I'm going to work with a producer on the next one. Somebody whom I know and is capable of sort of juggling my inability to want other people to be in part of the process. But I've been writing a record, and I think it's called Light Work at this point. And I'm at the stage of it that I have written maybe 20 songs, and in that I have had the opportunity to listen to it and say, okay, that aspect of it is intriguing. That song I like. All that stuff, I'm glad it's out of my system, but it's not resonating with me. And so I think the next step will just be to continue writing for another month or so and see if I can identify an aesthetic that seems to want to push through. And usually what happens is when that comes around, it's like one song or one technique or one production style that makes me think, oh, okay, that encapsulates where I'm at right now. And the process of getting there is just always the same. I just vomit music for months and then sift through it and try and find one thing and then start building on that. And I think I may have one thing out of these 25 things that defines where I'm at. But they say that the album's supposed to come out in 2022, like the first quarter of 2022. And of course, they're booking me on all these tours that may or may not happen next year. But given all that time that they've allotted to this, I'm hoping that this next record can be a definitive one for me. Like really, really like no fat at all. You know what I mean? Just like no filler. Just really like this is my identity right now.
that's amazing. It's kind of funny because I was reflecting a little bit before this chat about my favorite records of yours, and especially this, sort of the period right before this period now. And I was thinking about Epicloud, and it's 7 or 8 years old now. And I was like, I thought at that time, like, wow, this is like the pinnacle Devin album for me. At that moment, it was like very special. It still is very special to me. And so I'm so excited hearing you still like trying to, reach for something,
Oh man.
that you're not satisfied yet.
Well, I I think change is really important for me, as a person, and the work mirrors that. But as easy as it would be to stay in the same place for the rest of my life, whether or not that means moving or finding a musical style that is reasonably accepted and then just mining that vein for here on out. It's not really in line with me trying to like progress as a dude, right? So constantly trying to better the last record is not necessarily based on pride as much, and more so that that's just part of it. It's like there's no reason to write anything if it's the same as what I've done. It's so much work to make a record, man. Like it makes no sense to invest that amount of energy into something. It's like, yeah, but I've already done that. I can't sustain the interest in a style if I've already kind of mined it, right? But
Nice. I want to give you back your day in a second after this last question. And again, I'm just always thankful and grateful to get to chat with you. Of all the things you made, I feel like the song today that seems to resonate a lot with people as an outsider and not you is Kingdom. For some reason, that song has this lasting power with fans of all stripes. And so I just like, it just seems to be, it's a show closer.
yeah,
But sometimes it's I think a song probably people want to hear from you all the
right.
time.
I never
It's
thought of
it's becoming your stairway to heaven a little bit, which in the
it.
best, I mean that in the best way.
I
But
wish it was easier to sing. I mean, it's like
yeah,
the I think it resonates for a number of reasons. There's a certain amount of like bravado with the vocals for sure. It's direct, but I think maybe, I mean, the song is essentially an apology, like, and that's how it was written. Since the beginning, it was me saying, "Hey, I was wrong," and I think that that's a powerful sentiment to embrace, and I think there's a lot of people that relate to, specifically in this time of human development, where there's no real solid trajectory to take. So in order to progress at all, we've got to try things and then fail and start again and fail and start again and fail and start again. And I think there's maybe something relatable about that sentiment that maybe comes through in the song. I'm just spitballing, but maybe that's a part of it.
right on. Could also just be riffs and voice. Could be that simple, right?
I overthink it, dude. That's kind of my trip. It's like if it was just riffs, I'd feel pretty. I'd be psyched. So I'm gonna go with it. Yeah, dude, it's the riffs, man.
Riffs, dude.
Yeah,
Uh,
bro.
Devin, man, thank you so much once again. It's always a pleasure,
You too,
and I wish you the best. And thanks for sharing your story with Post Cult Magazine.
man. It's an absolute pleasure, and thank you for the support throughout the years, brother. And I hope to see you soon.